And also in the news today, Donald Trump was able to post his bond in his civil fraud case. Now, this bond had been set at $454 million, but he was given a reprieve from an appellate court, and he only had to post a $175 million bond, which he did on Monday. And as a result, New York authorities, Letitia James, the Attorney General, is foreclosed from initiating legal steps to take over his properties. The bond arrangement was made with Knight Specialty Insurance Company. And several of Trump's former top advisors and allies have refused to endorse their former boss's campaign, including former Vice President Mike Pence, former Attorney General William Barr, and former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. Other former members of Trump's inner circle, including former Defense Secretary Mark Esper, former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, and former White House counsel Ty Cobb, went further in their criticism of Trump by saying they're not going to vote for him in November and that they're open to casting a ballot for President Biden instead. Former President Trump is ramping up efforts to disparage judges overseeing his criminal and civil cases, reprising a long-standing strategy as a high-profile trial draws near and prompting growing concerns from legal experts and on an expanded gag order, which the judge had to issue late on Monday. And a Republican-appointed judge denounced Donald Trump's social media attacks against the judge presiding over the former president's hush money trial in Manhattan and his daughter, calling them assaults on the rule of law that could lead to violence and tyranny. The judge said when judges are threatened, and particularly when their family is threatened, it's something that's wrong and should not happen. Now, these are the comments of a Republican-appointed judge, U.S. District Judge Reggie B. Walton. And some new polling is out, which was conducted for The Economist, and that polling finds that Republicans were more likely to say that whites face a great deal of discrimination and that they were more discriminated than blacks or Arab Americans. They were also more likely to say that hate crimes against white people were a very serious problem compared with hate crimes against black or Arab Americans. A quote from one of Trump's key spokespersons, Stephen Chung, summarizes that intent. He says the former president is committed to weeding out discriminatory programs and racist ideology across the federal government. And here, the discriminatory programs that he's referring to are those that attempt to address systemic racial disadvantages. It is an evolution of the idea that affirmative action policies meant to eliminate those imbalances are in effect racist against white people. And today, young voters in Democratic strongholds such as Madison and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, were critical. These Democratic voters, once critical to Biden's victory in Wisconsin, said that they were on a mission to get 20,000 or more voters to vote uncommitted. They say this is all part of a broader strategy to cause Biden to change his approach to the Israeli and Gaza crisis. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm going to be joined by two of my favorite contributors, Dr. Larry Walker. He's a professor at the University of Central Florida, and Ed Sanders, who is a political analyst. And in hour two, you know what we do. That's the hour where we go deep, where we dig behind those headlines and bring you those stories that people are talking about. Well, today is World Autism Awareness Day, and this is a day where we bring awareness to individuals living with autism. And we not only raise awareness, but we also promote acceptance. There are diagnosed in this country 1 in 36 individuals, kids that is, that are born today will be diagnosed with autism, meaning that millions of individuals in this country live on the autism spectrum, and it is that and spectrum disorder. And despite all of the research and all of the awareness that has already been raised across this country, individuals with autism still face lots of discrimination. Many of them suffer to find an adequate diagnosis and then suffer to access services in their own community. That's why World Autism Day and Autism Awareness Month, which is acknowledged every April, are so important. Important to give individuals on the autism spectrum an opportunity to live their best and most productive lives. In hour two, I'm going to be talking to a father. This is a dad who was fed up in terms of the lack of resources in his community once he discovered that his son was on the autism spectrum. And rather than just complain about what wasn't in his community, he decided to take action and to do something about it. He started a nonprofit called Project Empowering Elijah. This is a nonprofit organization established back in 2004. He hosts year round educational and recreational programs, and he also does a lot of trauma informed work. All of this in his hometown and his community of Philadelphia. We're going to go one on one with Eric Williams. He's the founder of Project Elijah Empowering Autism. He has just had a very interesting and rich variety of rich experiences as the founder of a nonprofit, and also as the dad of his son, whose name is Elijah. We're going to talk to Eric Williams and also talk to an attorney that's working in partnership with Eric to bring his services and his resources not just to his hometown of West Philadelphia, but also nationwide. We're going to talk to Eric about how he is handling the many, many requests that he's getting across the country from folks who want to see the Project Empowering Elijah autism nonprofit work in their own communities. So make sure you stick around for hour two. We're going to be acknowledging and celebrating World Autism Day, and talking to Eric and his attorney about how they are expanding their projects. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I don't know if you guys have been following the NCAA basketball tournaments. They're both college men and college women are competing, and the games have been quite dynamic, quite explosive. But something really, really caught my attention, and by no means am I a big basketball fan. I don't watch a lot of basketball, but I am a fan of people who demonstrate resilience and people who are so determined and who persevere even in the face of incredible odds and obstacles. So that brings me to a story I saw about LSU Tiger star, LSU Tigers, one of their star players. Her name is Angel Reese. Now, you may have seen her, you may have heard her story, but Angel has endured the most vicious and heinous attacks ever. And she spoke out about what her life has been like over the last year as her team lost to the Iowa team that is led by superstar Caitlin Clark. LSU lost to Iowa 94-87 was the score. And after that game, Angel gave a very emotional and very tearful press conference. She talked about what she had been through. She said, "I've been through so much. I've seen so much. I've been attacked so many times, death threats. I've been sexualized. I've been threatened. I've been so many things, but yet I've stood strong every single time." And she concluded that statement by saying, "I'm still human." Wow, this is a young lady who should be celebrating the success that she's had as a nationally ranked, as a nationally, accredited top basketball player. But what should be the happiest moment of her life has been basically a nightmare. She added that she hasn't been happy since winning last year's title. So LSU won its first NCAA women's basketball championship title last year. And she said she has been miserable. She said she realized her lifelong dream of winning that championship, and that should have been a moment of joy. But what followed for her was just pure hell. And she said it all began with her interactions with Iowa star Caitlin Clark. In the waning minutes of that 2023 NCAA title game, uh, Angel Reese, who had been a constant target of criticism and attacks, some of which are embodied, in nationally, recognized newspapers and columns that we all follow, and many of the attacks are rooted just quite plainly and simply in misogyny and racism. This young lady, this young woman, this young black woman has been viciously attacked since she had this interaction with Caitlin Clark. People thought she was disrespectful to Caitlin Clark in 2023 at the end of that title game. And Reese has made it very clear that she has a great deal of respect for Caitlin Clark, that she's super competitive, and so is Caitlin Clark, and that they often taunt each other and do things on the basketball court, as we see happen in the men's game as well. But yet somehow that got all turned into Angel Reese being some villain because I guess in the eyes of some folks, she came for this white female superstar. And no disrespect to Caitlin Clark. I've watched Caitlin Clark. She handles herself incredibly well. She is a superstar by every definition there is. I think she's a phenomenal basketball player. And so far, like I said, everything I've seen about her, she's great. So this isn't even about Caitlin, but reality is you had Angel Reese, this black woman, and making this gesture to Caitlin Clark, and a lot of folks just quite frankly didn't like it. And so Angel Reese paid a huge price for that. She was ridiculed, she was villainized through this entire year. But what I am so proud of, I'm proud of the way that Reese carried herself and spoke up for herself, and also two of her teammates that came to her defense, saying that Angel is one of the toughest people that they know. They talked about how much hate had been directed at her, all the horrible things that people had said about her. But they said she, despite all of that, came to practice every day, that she continued to encourage them, and that she made them better basketball players. And they were so themselves emotional. They were so incredibly sorrowful, and just apologizing to her for what she has gone through, and talked about how so many people would have given up, so many people would have given in, but that Angel stood tall and just, stood in her truth and continued to be the great basketball player that she is. And so I just want to give a lot of credit to not only Angel Reese for enduring what she endured, but yet continued to play at the top of her game, but also her classmates. It shouldn't be that way, whether it's Lizzo saying she's going to quit the music industry because people criticize her at every turn. They criticize what she wears, how she looks, how she sounds. And now here's another woman 10 years or so younger than Lizzo, but again, the height of her career as a college basketball player. And she too has just been, um, treated so disrespectfully, so horribly by news media, by influencers, by other folks in her league, even, which is so disheartening. And, it's not clear if Angel will return to LSU or declare for this month's WNBA draft. She's projected to be a first round pick if she does decide to go, to the pros, go to the WNBA. And one thing I know, no matter what Angel decides to do, she is a superstar, and she will always be a superstar. Whether she is playing for LSU, whether she's on a WNBA team, whether she decides, not to even go into the WNBA and pursue something else, she's already made a significant amount of money through name, image, and likeness campaigns that she's a part of. And she's already stood up to the bullies, in her own way, by showing up on that court every day and giving 110%, by being a role model to her teammates, and by just, continuing to be the class act that she is. So, Angel Reese, we see you, we love you, we got you. Don't let those bullies dim your light. Keep shining bright, and keep doing what you do, because you are going to have an incredible, incredible future. And all those bullies that are, hating on you now, you'll be able to look back and laugh at this moment And I hope you do enjoy the rest of your senior year. Take your time, make your decision, decide what you're going to do. And, Caitlin Clark, keep doing your thing too. We love you. We love the competitiveness of women's basketball. So we've got a lot to talk about when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough.
My ride smells just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
They said it couldn't be done. They said it was impossible. But mark my words, I did it with Kohl's. That's right. I got everything I needed for my spring home refresh in one trip. I'm talking Sonoma Goods for Life bedding for 20% off, and Espresso Virtual Plus Deluxe for 30% off, Cuisinart cookware sets for 35% off, and Sonoma Goods for Life decor for 20% off. So if you want to get set for the season and save big, you can do it all at Kohl's. Select styles, some exclusions apply. Espresso and Cuisinart coupons do not apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott unveiled a $4.1 billion budget for fiscal year 2025, with $3.4 billion for operating expenses and $654 million for capital investments. The budget focuses on education, violence prevention, and addressing vacant properties while closing a budget gap by cutting vacant city positions. Mayor Scott, who is Black, is monitoring the Key Bridge collapse's potential impact on the city's finances. Subway crime in New York City is down. There was a big spike in subway crime in January, but it went down in February, and now Mayor Eric Adams, who is Black, says there's a 24% drop in subway crime for March. The state and city made a number of moves to try and address subway safety over the last couple of months, including adding law enforcement personnel in the system. The NYPD just deployed 800 additional officers to go after fare beaters, who officials say are often the ones committing subway crimes. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Trouble in Alhambra continues as the right lane is blocked with an accident on the 10 East after Atlantic Boulevard, where the 20-minute backup running stops from Soto Street. Good news in Baldwin Park on the 10 East of Puente Avenue. Accident's been cleared from lanes with a slight delay in recovery, running heavy from Peck Road. Drive carefully as a 3-vehicle accident is currently on the center divide of South LA's 105 West with the 110, and a slight slowdown is coming from Central Avenue. Over in Arcadia, drive carefully on the 210 East after Santa Anita Avenue as a dump truck involved the accident remains on the right shoulder, and a 15-20 minute backup continues from the Mountain Seco Street interchange. Also in Pasadena, also on the 210 East after Sierra Madre Avenue, San Gabriel Boulevard split, and accidents on the right shoulder.
Californians face unique challenges that call for localized solutions. Strengthening the bonds of community in your neighborhoods is one of the best ways to be prepared for our next climate disaster. Neighbor to Neighbor is a California volunteers network designed to help strengthen your community. Learn more at caneighbors.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Despite Monday night's loss to UConn in the NCAA women's basketball tournament, the future is very bright for the USC program. ESPN.com ranks USC #1 among the nation's recruiting classes coming in for next season. 3 of the players signed by USC coach Lindsey Gottlieb are playing in tonight's McDonald's High School All-American game in Houston, including Kennedy Smith of Rancho Cucamonga. Smith was the #1 recruit in California. The other 2 All-Americans are Avery Howell of Boise, Idaho, and Kaylee Heckel of Long Island, New York. It looks like USC will have a lot more talent next season to put around All-American Juju Watkins. The Dodgers are at home tonight against San Francisco. The Angels are at Miami. The Angels are 2-2 in their first season with manager Ron Washington. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
If your Medi-Cal is ending, Cover California is here to help. Cover California is a service from the state that helps you get affordable health insurance. In many cases, at no cost to you, just like with Medi-Cal. We have quality health plans and will help you every step of the way to get the one that works for you and your family. So, if you're no longer eligible for Medi-Cal, check out Cover California. We'll keep you covered. Learn more at coveredca.com.
It's the celebration of a living legend. It's the Farewell Tour. It's Maze featuring Frankie Beverly.
Thank you for the love, Julia.
Also featuring the soul icon, Anthony Hamilton. Plus, After 7, it's a Mother's Day celebration, May 12th in the Kia Forum. In commemoration, come in your all white. Get tickets at Ticketmaster. Presented by the Black Promoters Collective. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Single Moms Planet is a nonprofit organization dedicated to uplifting under-resourced single mom business owners and working mothers nationwide. Single Moms Planet offers comprehensive programs of financial literacy, business development, mentorship, and entrepreneurial training. They provide education, accountability, and hope. Single Moms Planet was founded by model, TV personality, and producer Nefertiri Plessy. Nefertiri felt firsthand the challenges that face single moms as she was raised by a working single mother. She learned that the most disadvantaged group in the United States are single mom families. According to the U.S. Census, 30% live under the poverty line. So she decided to do something about it, along with co-founder Cole Patterson. Their goal is to end the poverty cycle in single mother households through education, opportunity, and networking, providing family and child enrichment programs for under-resourced single-parent families. Single Moms Planet serves over 10,000 single moms and their children each year. Studies show that business development and financial literacy provide a positive environment for children and families, exposing them to new possibilities and opportunities. To attend one of their fun events, make a donation, or get more information, or if you need help as a single mom, please visit singlemomsplanet.org. That's singlemomsplanet.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, we're breaking down today's trending and breaking news with my contributors. Ed Sanders is here and Dr. Larry Walker. All right, Ed, there are primaries happening around the country today. Not a lot of people paying close attention to them because everybody pretty much knows this is a Biden-Trump election. But let's talk about Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a state that is going to be critical to the 2024 general election. And there are a bunch of Democratic voters who are saying that, they shouldn't vote for Joe Biden. They should vote uncommitted. And at the same time, Donald Trump has made, I think, his 7th or 8th visit to Wisconsin. He's there today. They say lines are wrapped around the corner. And it's just kind of funny. I was reading one of the voters who are there in the line to see Donald Trump says things are good now and they can be even better under Donald Trump. That's why people should vote for him. What do you expect coming out of these this election, this primary election happening in Wisconsin today?
Well, I like the rest of the country. We'll keep an eye on it. It's interesting to kind of gauge and understand what turnout may be. I think your first point that it's a foregone conclusion may depress a little bit of the vote. I know there's some state votes that are taking place that may drive people to the polls. But I'm looking at the total vote to see how energized Democrats, how energized Republicans are in the state. The state is and has been a critical battleground in the last couple election cycles. And you've got really sort of the Milwaukee and Racine area where you have significant African-American populations, but that's also where the Democratic base is. And then you look at the rest of the state and it's fully red. So not much surprise where the votes come from. It's just a question of how many people are voting, and you can kind of gauge what the engagement level would be.
Larry, did you see Robert F. Kennedy in that interview he did last night where he said, and if you didn't see it, I'm sure you read about it, that Biden was a bigger threat to the democracy than Trump because of his engagement with social media sites. And when pressed about the fact that Donald Trump had actually tried to overturn the election, he acknowledged that Trump did that, but he still kept to his point and doubled down even that somehow engaging or trying to regulate social media companies is a worse sin, is more harmful to the democracy than what Donald Trump has done. And then he deflected the question, or I guess denied that he is a spoiler in the race for Donald Trump, although Biden's supporters rightfully called out that if you're not a spoiler, you very much look like one because you're repeating MAGA talking points. What are we to make of Robert Kennedy, and is he going to be a problem?
Well, first of all, highlights, what privilege looks like in America, especially when you're white and male. I think that's the first thing we need to highlight. Secondly, we know he's, when it comes to issues relating to vaccines and other issues, race, et cetera, that he's not qualified, not just to be president of the United States, but just have a general conversation about these important topics. And so, Areva, I did see some of the clips yesterday of his interview, and anytime he does an interview, it's disturbing. Another thing I want to highlight, Areva, since we're talking about privilege and him being a Kennedy, highlight how many of his family members don't support his candidacy, including his sibling. So I think that also speaks to, why he carries that Kennedy name, that he's not part of that long tradition, JFK and Robert Kennedy and others who fought for racial justice. And, in addition, he's just, I just saw a poll that, you talk about him being a spoiler, that showed that, that if it was Trump and Biden, that Biden would win by 3 points. And I think it showed if Kennedy was involved in the race, he'd win by 1. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to be my personal opinion. I don't believe he's going to have that degree of an impact on the race. I think it's a bit inflated right now. We're still several months out, but I think nonetheless, he shouldn't be running for president. He's not qualified. And it would be nice to call him a skeptic. But that would be being too kind when it comes to issues relating to vaccine, other common sense approaches to public health.
Yeah, Ed, what do you make of Robert Kennedy making that ridiculous statement? Even historians were like, how can you ignore the man that tried to overturn a legitimate election and somehow call him less dangerous than a president just doing his job and regulating a big industry? And especially when you look at this laundry list of folks that have worked with Donald Trump, who said, oh no, I cannot support him. And some of the people on the list saying, I am open to voting for Joe Biden. These are people that were up close and personal. They were in the White House. We're talking about Mark Esper, Ty Cobb, William Barr, John Kelly, Mike Pence. So if anybody knows if Trump is dangerous, these are the people that would know it because they were working side by side. And even they say they can't support him. So what is Robert F. Kennedy talking about?
Well, I mean, to your point, he's just talking, but he's talking and speaking on and hitting some themes that he knows people are responding to. I think the first is that you've got two presidential candidates in Biden and Trump that are highly unfavorable. I think between the two of them, their unfavorables are higher than any other two candidates. And so, he's living in that space. He's touching on social media. Social media has been an incredible industry over the last few years. I would gamble that most people are in favor of an open social media, and he's kind of leaning into those themes to try to build some support. Ultimately, I agree with Larry that he's not going to have too big of an impact. What he is a challenge to both candidates, and more specifically to Biden. It's not enough to just call him a spoiler. Those are votes. Go win the votes, right? And if you don't win the votes and they go somewhere else, I start with that campaign first. That campaign has a job to do, which is win votes.
No doubt about it. It has a job to do, but I don't know what kind of credibility you can have on the social media issue, because it's the Republicans primarily who are trying to haul in the social media executives into, it's Republicans around the country who are banning children from social media sites. It's the Republicans who are, jumping up and down and making the most noise about social media sites and banning TikTok and banning, other access to other social media sites. So to suggest that whatever Joe Biden and his administration has done related to social media is more threatening to our democracy, it's just ridiculous. And I do hope the family, as you mentioned, Larry, is supposed to be so adamantly opposed to Robert F. Kennedy. They have been speaking out, but hope we see more of them speaking out in a more, forceful way about how dangerous, talk about who's dangerous to the democracy. It's Robert F. Kennedy is dangerous to the democracy. Larry, Biden's going to have a problem with this Israel issue. When the World Central Kitchen says they are pulling all of its workers, and Benjamin Netanyahu says, hey, I'm sorry, it's war. People get accidentally murdered in war. And the CEO of the World Kitchen says, no, this wasn't an accident. This was a targeted attack, and it's unforgivable. And the humanitarian aid we were given to Gaza, we're pulling out. Is it going to be too little too late, you think, when the Biden administration, if they ever start to address this war in a different way?
Areva, I think that the words you've seen over the more cautious language that the White House, the president and VP have delivered has to match the policy issues. I mean, I want to say quietly they've continued to send armaments to Israel, but they have continued to send, on a weekly basis, large amounts of money and equipment. And this is really, and look, you can argue, I think in terms of domestic policies have been excellent the last couple of years, but his international policy, particularly this is like an anchor on his poll numbers among minoritized voters and young voters. And it would really be, first of all, many of us morally, in terms of some of the things that are happening, have raised a number of concerns, and I think that the White House has heard it, but hasn't quite, like I said, followed the policy. But it would be something to lose the White House over what's happening in Israel, where it's been clear for several months that they not only, like I said, that their words and have to match their policies, because this is weighing on his poll numbers. And listen, this is a different generation, and if you're not careful, there are some young people who are just going to stay at home. And obviously, we could talk about the ramifications of doing that, but it concerns me that more and more you're seeing young people really become kind of steadfast in saying that they may not vote. And then we all know the long-term implications for our democracy and being Black in America, what that mean for all of us long-term.
Well, yeah, talk about being Black in America. This new poll out that, says basically Donald Trump has made it very clear that he is going to eliminate all discriminatory programs. And when he refers to, or his people refer to discriminatory programs, they're talking about all programs meant to eliminate the imbalances, the systemic racism, meant to even the playing field, the inequities that African Americans in particular have faced. It's not just critical race theory. It's not just diversity, equity, and inclusion. They are out to kill every program that in any way seeks to provide equity to Black folks. When we come forward, I want to talk about that. I want to ask you both about an interesting concept someone presented to me today about how the Democrats got themselves in this predicament. And they say it started with Joe Biden picking Kamala Harris as the VP. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement. Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness. From my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, home of the 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Something by you. I had this conversation today with a very smart woman, and we were talking about the election, talking about the challenges that the Democrats face. And she says it dates back to the decision that Joe Biden made to put Kamala Harris on the ticket. That he knew at that time that she was not a strong second chair, not a strong candidate to be the president. They said she had not won one primary when she was running for president. that her favorability numbers were incredibly low, even amongst African Americans, that he had lots of other Black women. They cited Val Demings, they cited Susan Rice, a couple of other women. And they said the problem was that Joe Biden should have picked one of those other women, should have run for one term, and should have then, moved aside so that that more popular, better liked Black woman could have run. And we wouldn't have this issue of ageism, because this Black woman presumably would be younger and she would be better liked, have better favorability ratings. What's your response to that, Ed?
I don't know that I agree. I agree with all of the points that you made about Kamala, in terms of her unfavorability. Ultimately, she was strong enough to help the ticket win, so that it wasn't a negative impact in that regard. I honestly don't think there was another African American woman candidate that he could have put on the ticket to position to win the presidency. To the point of him being a one-term president, you still had other members of the party out there, Pete Buttigieg, some others that would have been angling to run as well if this were a one-term president. And I don't know that the country or that any of those candidates that were African American women could have risen above, won the primaries necessary to become the nominee on the Democratic Party side. Ultimately, it's like I say, Kamala and Biden won. They won the presidency, which shows that was the ticket that should have been. They're running for re-election. While their numbers aren't the strongest, I think they've got a lot of things that they can run on.
What do you make of that argument, Larry? And then I'll tell you what I said to the lady.
Yeah, I'm gonna be frank. It makes no sense at all. Ed just highlighted they won the election. that's and listen, that's all that matters in elections. It doesn't matter if you win by one vote. If you win the election, particularly the highest, the top of the mountain, that's all that matters. So let's highlight a really couple important points. VP Harris is only the second Black woman ever reelected to U.S. Senate after Carol Moseley Braun. She doesn't exactly represent a small state. Secondly, and thirdly, she
come on, Larry, bring it.
She has listen. I went to graduate school from Howard, so and I'm an alpha man too. So let me put both those points out there. So, but listen, she has impeccable credentials, and I think lastly, as Ed kind of alluded to, I love Val Demings. I'm from live in Florida, and listen, Suzanne Rice, she has a great history, the Clinton administration, etc. But let's be frank, any Black woman who would have been selected as VP is going to have high negatives because of the views of Black, and then you intersect that with gender, they're going to have high negatives. There's no way getting around that. I think the real question is for Democrats, because I do think Biden will win a close election in a couple of months, is do we have a civil war 4 years from now when it comes to VP Harris should obviously be the nominee? That's going to really be the question for Democrats 4 years from now, in my opinion. But the question her credentials or that she should have been VP, it's like rewinding a movie from '84. Come on now. In my opinion, like Ed said, they won, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I thought it was the most bizarre theory. First of all, I'm like, as you just said, the woman was a U.S. senator from one of the largest states in the country. She was attorney general for the state, so she had won statewide twice. Name another Black woman that had done that. Be hard to do, right? She had impeccable credentials. She did help the ticket. They won. They won. You can't deny that they won. And this notion of a one-term president, I said, that would not have worked. This country is built on two-term presidents. He would have had to move over after year one. And as you said, Ed, it would have been a bloodbath primary, no matter who, Val Demings, Susan Rice, Kamala Harris. If Biden had said he wasn't running, nobody was going to lay down and just give the vice president an easy ride. We'd have had 15 people jumping into the race that would have tore each other up. By the time we got to the primaries, it would have been a bloodbath, and there'd be no guarantee that the Democrats would be any stronger just because the person is younger. I'm like, that's just a flawed theory.
I don't know. I would disagree with that. I think that the party does need to kind of tear itself down. It's in a generational shift right now, and you've seen the transformation at the
Well,
House
wait a
level.
minute, Ed. They had an opportunity to tear itself down 4 years ago. They had Pete Buttigieg, who was 40. They had Kamala Harris, who was 50 something. We rejected those candidates. So
Right.
all this, people say now they want all these young people. Where were those voters when they could have voted for all those young people?
Well, that just means those candidates weren't the right ones. I mean, that doesn't mean that we have to stay in the age of Biden and
No, we
select,
don't have to
leaders
stay in
from
the
that
age of
generation.
Biden, but we had an opportunity 4 years ago and we picked Biden. And did anybody pick Biden thinking that Biden wasn't going to run again? Anybody that's astute in politics?
No, but I mean, I think we've all been saying this for several years that the national bench on the Democratic side is relatively weak. There are not the national names. There are not the elected officials that carry the sort of heft that you would immediately throw them as a front runner in a presidential race.
Oh, I disagree with you totally on that. We have a
So can
ton of governors and senators, Democratic governors and senators that I'd match up any day of the week against the Republican bench. Where are all these Republican superstars you're talking about?
Oh, I don't. Look, the Republican Party is equally empty, right? Like they've gone off the ledge, and I agree that.
Gretchen Whitmer, Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom. We have incredible candidates. I don't know, Larry, what do you think about that? That we don't have a bench?
So I want to go back. I mentioned I worked on the Hill. I could tell the story about a state senator from Illinois who ran against then Congressman Bobby Rush at a time I was working on the Hill and had never heard of the person running against him, who Bobby Rush crushed in an election. And that same individual who lost to former Congressman Bobby Rush, who's now retired, it went on to be a two-term president of the United States. And that name, obviously, at the time was Barack Obama, who I had never heard of. So I think that, name recognition is relative in terms of when that individual's, in case of President Obama, you see their rise, right? He started off a state senator who lost to a member of Congress, a member of the CBC, and went on to become president of the United States. But I agree with you, Areva. Wes Moore, former state I lived in Maryland, among Newsom, who's an excellent advocate on behalf of the Biden White House, among others. Whitmer, we can keep going down the line. I think that the Democrats have a strong bench. I think that there's a lot of anti-democratic views in this country, and because Democrats are seen as the individuals who represent kind of a multi-racial, ethnic America, I think that it increases a lot of negatives for a lot of those individuals we just talked about.
Well, this poll, if we have any doubts about that, this poll tells us everything. White people believe that they are subjected more to hate crimes than African Americans and Arab Americans. White people believe that after 2014, the rise of the BLM movement, that they were basically displaced and that Black folks got stuff that belongs to them. And Donald Trump has made it clear he's coming forward. He's going to eliminate every what he calls discriminatory program. And he says, every project, every program that's designed to address, past inequities, they are going to eliminate, because white people say that they are the ones who are the subject of racism and not Black people. I'm sorry, we are out of time. Thank you guys so much. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. Appreciate your insights. Make sure you stick around, because we're going to be talking about World Autism Day and a man who's on a mission after his son is diagnosed with autism, what he's doing to transform his West Philadelphia community. That's coming up in hour 2 on Areva Martin in Real Time, right here on KBLA Talk 15.